came into the garden after a weekend away. Got back, sprang into the garden. Oh, look, isn't it lovely? Oh, the bloody sunflowers died. That's the bad news. Nothing more dramatic. Sorry, I was building the part up a little bit more, wasn't I? But yeah, I sprang out into the garden. Brilliant, lovely day. I'm going to do a bit of... Oh, what's happened to the 2 metre high sunflower, or 7 or 8 foot tall sunflower? Let me show you what I mean. I'm just going to bring my red wine with us. I don't think that's a problem. It's a Sunday night. I've made a roast dinner. I've been a hard-working girl all day. I'm going to have a little sip. Yeah, so this beautiful sunflower was, when I left it, glorious. Absolutely glorious. It had a going to be big dinner plate head on it. And honestly, I'm 5'2" and it stands at, I'd say, getting on for 8 foot. Which is flipping impressive. I have to say, it was like a show sunflower. And I got to it a few days ago and it's wilted. Nothing is wrong with it. It's still strong in the ground. It's not been blown over, and we did have a few gales over the time I was away. But the leaves have wilted, they've all gone brown. It's like its water supply suddenly was cut off and it just gave up the ghost. Oh my gosh, I was gutted. I must admit, I was feeling a bit down anyway, a bit hormonal. And it just tipped me over the edge. I was like, oh God, it's died. This bloody thing's died. And I am really sad about it. So I was obviously jumped to the conclusion that it was sabotage from a sunflower competitor. I don't know, my fantasy head about entering it into a show. There was some competitor had come and damaged it while we were away. That was ridiculous though, isn't it? And why wouldn't they just rip it out or chop it up, right? So that's not happening. But what is next to it? And you may have heard me in previous episodes mention the naughty Nicotiana that isn't flowering, that's just like a massive jumbo mess of huge leaves. It just looks like a massive dock leaf, out of control dock leaf corner in the Jasper Memorial Bed, which is where the sunflower and the Nicotiana are. Next to some very healthy phlox, which smell nice this time of year, and some salvia, and some hostas which have come into life. They've got beautiful, very delicate purple lilac, nice lilac colour flowers on the top, next to the dahlias. You know, there's a lot going on and everything else looks really healthy. So why would the sunflower just give up the ghost? And I thought back, is it chemical? Is it a problem with the chemicals? And I have, under advice of my new friend, and I'll get onto that in a minute, my new friend Rianne, gave the Nicotiana some Tomarite, which is tomato feed really, traditionally. And she said, no, it's really good for bringing on flowers in plants that aren't flowering. So I bobbed a bit of that on a few weeks ago. And lo and behold, the Nicotiana has sprinted up to being about 1 metre tall. The leaves are disgusting, I have to say. I would warn against planting out Nicotiana to anyone. I grew these from seed, so I, as you may remember, I had no idea what size they would be. They're rather crammed in. But the leaves are sticky and smelly and... yeah, anyway. We're getting some flowers now, just about. They better be good. Otherwise, that's it. That's the end of the journey for me and Nicotiana. Anyway, standing tall above all of this chaos of beauty is this wilted beanpole of sadness. Anyway, I thought it's not a chemical thing. Or I don't know, is it a chemical thing? Because a few days later I'd put Miracle Grow on the other stuff. And on top of that, I'd put... Don't tell the RHS. Don't tell the vegetarians. That I'd put down a load of slug pellets to kill the snails that were eating the dahlias and eating the hostas and going crackers. I don't know about you, but I've had a massive snail problem this year with all the wet and the heat and the glorious conditions that snails can get it off with each other and procreate. And we've just been overwhelmed, really. So I've got this new friend who knows about gardening. and I met her a couple of Sundays ago at my father-in-law's 80th birthday get-together, socially distanced get-together, may I say. And she was up from South Wales, and she's the best friend of my mother-in-law. Anyway, I've met Rianne a couple of times, not really chatted too much to her. Got chatting in the kitchen, as you do. And turns out she's a mad keen gardener, and she's retired. I suppose she's too young to retire, but finished her big corporate job and decided she was going to do the Royal Horticultural Society course, a whole year of learning about plants and stuff. And so I heard this, I was like, wow, okay, I'm like completely at the beginner's scale of all of that. I've got a garden podcast. It's called My Garden Podcast. If you want to listen to some bumbling, inexpert person having a go in the garden, do tune in, Rianne. And she said she would, so that's nice. But also I was able to pick her brain about such things as my non-flowering Nicotiana, my kind of crappy tomato plants that never gave out, the strawberries that weren't fruiting. And then we exchanged numbers, and now I'm able to, it's a direct line to Intel. Anyway, she said, I don't know myself, but I'm meeting up with some of my course mates. I'll ask them, and I'll also email the tutors on the course. I've got a hotline to the experts, which is fabulously reassuring. So that's how I know about what might have occurred here. So I contacted my new mate, Rianne, to say to her, look, I've done the Tomarite thing that you suggested, but then I did Miracle Grow, and then I did Slugs. Is that what has killed my beautiful sunflower? And her reply is that no. She says the tomato feed and the Miracle Grow as a cocktail will have absolutely no ill effect on the sunflower unless they were used in extremely high doses. Now, I didn't do that, and the rest of the bed is fine. So many gardeners use both products on the same plants with no ill effects. Miracle Grow for strong growth and general health, and tomato food to promote flower and fruit. So now we know. It's good to have an expert, isn't it? Just who knows what they're doing. But the symptoms of the wilting are much more consistent with the plant not being able to take up enough water. Sunflowers often show signs of dry soils before other plants due to the height and the water they need to travel. Of course, right, okay. So if you're confident it's always been watered well, and no, I'm not, actually. I'm not. I was resting on my laurels thinking the occasional downpour that we've been experiencing would be enough. But looking at the setup the poor sunflower has, the naughty Nicotiana is just dominating the skyline, I suppose, and taking any water away, and it doesn't land on the soil. Talking quite a lot about this, aren't I? I'm very passionate about this sunflower, and I'll tell you why. Because not only do I feel like I've goofed it and not given it the water it needs, and it died, but I was having a cup of tea today, just happened to glance up at it because I didn't pull it out the ground immediately. I wanted to show my husband it and go, oh my God, look at the devastation, right? It's flowering. It's flowering. And not only that, there's another flower. It's going to be a double header. So I sprang to the hose and gave it a massive drink, not just a good drink, a massive drink direct to the soil. And I'm going to pay close attention to it. I've snipped off the brown, poor, dry, crispy leaves. And there's a few left up here. I can't see how crunchy that is. I can't reach them to cut them off. So they're just going to have to, God, that's just awful, stay there. But behind them is new growth. So I have everything crossed for my poorly sunflower. I can only say sorry to it. Sorry, sunflower. It was lovely knowing you, but fingers crossed you might just develop and rise from the ashes. But I'll be looking after it for a little while longer. Sod the Nicotiana, they can do their own thing, but sunflowers all the way for me.